Okay, so we are having Stephen, and Stephen is basically a co-founder of the DevOps group, and he's in the Microsoft R&D department, which you can only imagine is full of geeks and exciting tech, and Runal is part of the leadership team at Johnson & Johnson, showing us the way, how it's done in their industry. And not sure if Alan has made it yet, but I think we just need to get started. Can you bring him in? Hey, guys. So, and hey, everyone that's listening. Did you know that the global value of digital transformation is $100 trillion per the World Economic Forum globally, including all industries over the next 3 years? So today, I want to learn from our panelists how we can unlock that value. So I want to hear from each one of you how much of that 100 trillion you can put aside for the rest of us. But as we all move from analog to digital, from old to Industry 4.0, digital transformation is the only way to survive. So I'm thrilled to host you guys and excited to learn from the best. So guys, I don't know if you guys know, but I took the 23andMe test, right? And it shows that I'm 2% German, right? So guess what? Timer is off, and I do have a couple of ground rules, if you don't mind. We have 30 minutes. I have questions. You have answers. You'll each have max 2 minutes to answer. We'll go in order, and then we'll have Q&A. So first off, can you give me a thumbs up if you agree that I have not given you any questions up front, and this will be real time, authentic, and live? Okay. All right, here we go. How do you define digital transformation? Let's do 1 minute each for this first one, since it's an easy one. How do you define digital transformation? Alan, since you showed up last, you go first.
Digital transformation is it's both the science and art
if you're talking, Alan, we can't hear you.
Oh, okay. Hold on. Can you not hear me?
Yeah,
we can.
You can, okay. Yeah?
I can't for some reason. Don't mind.
Okay. So digital transformation to me is both the science and art of identifying areas that we can automate in your business and free up humans and augment them to allow them to do more valuable work.
Okay. All right. Good. Runal?
The way I see digital transformation is a combination of three key areas. I call them the three pillars. One is intelligent automation, just like Alan said. The second is data, and data driving a lot of that. And third is the user experience. So all of those three pillars combined can really propel us into the digital world.
Okay, good. Stephen, do you want to add to it, please?
Yeah, absolutely. I couldn't actually hear Alan's answer, but for me, it's about completely reinventing your business model. There was a survey from McKinsey that said only 8% of organizations felt that their existing business model was going to survive digital transformation. There's nothing more fundamental to an organization to their business model and how they make money. So it's about adapting your business model to digital customer needs, to digital distribution channels, to leverage the technology in a way that means you can do it faster, cheaper, or at higher quality than somebody else. So it really is understanding that IT is no longer just a nice to have, that IT is now fundamental to your business, and you have to be great at IT, because without that great digital capability, you will not be able to survive as more and more and more of the economy shifts to digital channels.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. Okay, well, that was an easy one. All right, so now let's get into it. So everyone are at different stages on their transformation journey, right? The FANGs, the Facebooks, Apple, Netflix, Googles, they're all going at full speed, Microsoft. But for us mortals, we have to work through this, right? So where on the journey are you and your organization, and what is working well and what is not? Runal.
So in Johnson & Johnson, what we're doing is we have a enterprise-led strategy on digital, right? And how do we lead in the digital world? So this is at the executive committee level. For context, J&J is a company that's 137 plus years old. It has 150,000 employees plus, global healthcare leader. So for us to transform, we are looking at a legacy that's very old, right? So what we've done is our executive committee has made a conscious attempt to ensure that we've defined this strategy at the enterprise level. What we've also done is ensure that we bring the rest of the organization along. When you have an organization that's 137 plus years old, you have a lot of legacy environments, legacy depth in technology, and you have to transform all of that legacy and move that forward into the digital world. So for us, it's not as much about technology adaptation. That can be done with capital investment. It's more about change management, because you have to bring a lot of our people who are our assets, who are our talent, right? Upskill our talent and ensure that change management comes along to ensure that we're ready for the new world of digital. And how do we take the entire 137 years of history forward into the digital world?
Yeah. No, I agree. Thanks for that. It is, and the comment on people is right on. So, okay, Steve, do you mind?
Yeah, absolutely. So we're the exact opposite to Marunal's situation. We are a digital native company. We were founded in 2013 with my company DevOps Group, and we are DevOps native and cloud native from day one. But we made a lot of conscious choices. Like, we only use SaaS platforms. We will never have a server in the office. We don't want servers in the office. So all our finance system, our HR system, our human resources, our work tracking systems like Jira, or all of our CI/CD tools and DevOps tools, they're all cloud native. But to follow on from Marunal's point, we've also put a lot of effort into the people and culture side of the business. We invest a lot in nurturing that culture. We're constantly asking. We have a monthly, employee pulse survey, so we understand how people are feeling about the organization. We invest in training, and we invest a lot of work with our partners, like Microsoft. We just did like a 3-day enterprise hack day. Focus on large-scale landing zones in Azure and stuff like that. So, I completely agree with Marunal. Even if you've got a brand new organization, the focusing on the people and the culture is absolutely the right thing to do.
Yeah. Great. Thanks, Alan. Do you mind? So, where on the journey are you, and what's working well and what's not? 2 minutes.
Sure. So, really quickly, I am in an interesting place, because I'm on the journey of trying to help other customers who currently have very gloopy processes and digitize those with more streamlined processes. And the interesting part, which mixes in what both of our speaking colleagues have said here, is that as we go on this journey, we find that we have to change our digital approach to make sure that we're complementing the need of the user. Mm-hmm. Because as with any business plan, no business plan ever survives first contact with customer. And we're also finding that no digital transformation plan ever survives its first contact with its users.
Yeah. No, that's people, user experience. You guys are hitting all the right points here. So I personally think that inability to execute rapidly and the fear of failure are two big, if not obstacles, definitely challenges, right? So execution, quick execution, speed, and fear of failure. What, if you agree, if not, please tee up your own, but what are your organization's challenges, and what are you doing about those two, if you agree? Speed and fear of failure. Steve?
I'll probably talk more about the customers that we deal with to help them on their DevOps adoption and cloud adoption. There's probably three things: leadership, complete lack of it, complete lack of digital skills in leadership, just completely focused on maintaining the current share price to the so to get them to the next year or the next quarter, and not focusing on actually you are the buggy whip manufacturer of the 21st century unless you fundamentally reform. So they have a vested interest in the status quo. So finding the right leadership to lead the digital transformation is huge. I think the finance model, I was having a conversation with somebody on LinkedIn the other day where they talked about a bank that wanted to redevelop their banking platform and worked out that it was going to cost them $25 million to redevelop their core banking platform. But the book value of the banking platform they already had was $130 million. So the finance director says, no, you're not allowed to do this modernization of the banking platform because I'd have to write off that $130 million that I'm carrying on my books. And I'm not prepared to do that because it would destroy my P&L for this year, so crazy things like that. And then as an aspect of that, technical debt, the more and more we work with organizations, particularly as part of their cloud migration, they're crippled by technical debt. That they don't understand the systems they have. They haven't been modernized, they haven't been upgraded, or they've been upgraded in such a way that they're no longer upgradable. It's just, it's extraordinary the levels of technical debt that exist inside these organizations. If you've been under investing in IT for 10 years and suddenly, as part of digital transformation, you've got to repay that investment, you don't have 10 years budget to spend in 1 year. So yeah, technical debt's the third one.
Yeah. Great. Alan, if you don't mind, so if you agree about speed and fear of failure, or any other challenges, and what are you guys doing about it?
I think that speed is always an expectation because in addition to people say, oh, digital transformation, well, surely then you can do this thing like uber fast. But actually the process of progression of change takes as long as change takes. You can't just suddenly say, oh, it's digital, therefore it will speed up. And I think overall, from my point of view, the biggest barrier to digital transformation is actually both the C-suite and the senior leadership team understanding what exactly is digital transformation. And there's a lot of misconceptual understanding of this out there. So I would see that as one of the primary challenges is people, leaders, C-suite do not understand what it means. What is the difference between digital transformation and digitization?
Yeah. And if I can add to what Alan just said on senior leadership and change management, right? So at J&J, part of our digital journey, we're training through virtual courses our senior leaders in what digital is, so that we can ensure that any investment that our organization brings up to them, which has digital in it, they understand that this investment is future-proofing, and don't ask the questions that are legacy questions that might stop us from moving forward, right? That's number one. You also talked about failure, and I want to make sure that we talk about failure, because I think with a lot of buzz around failure and fail fast in the agile world, there's a lot of overuse of that term occasionally, and I don't think we do a good job of differentiating what true failure in agile is versus lack of planning is.
Yeah.
Right. So in a lot of organizations, there are legacy organizations. The default is, well, US leaders are not allowing us to fail. Well, lack of planning or lack of good design, good architecture is not an allowable failure. What allowable failure is, you iterate, you're experimenting with something new, you're dealing with the unknown, you iterate quickly, you fail quickly, course correct quickly, and get back on track, right? It's more of a release plan. So I think it's important to understand that and differentiate the two failures, what is accepted and what should not be accepted.
Yeah, no, I agree. Can you share, Mrinal, just to follow up on that, can you share your organizational structure around speed for that? Is it like Alan said, it takes as long as it takes, or do you have an entrepreneur in residence that are like whipping people and go, hey, come on, you can do it in 24 hours. It doesn't have to take 60 days.
Right. So it's, I would say, we, large company, right? 150,000 employees, 137 years old. So the messaging from the top is that we are a 137-year-old startup. Literally, we have communications that say that, right? That's to inspire the broad population of our employees to say, guys, we have to think agile and we have to go faster. Now, what we have is pockets of innovators within the organization. And those pockets are the engine that brings in a lot of new capabilities into the organization, right? Because as a large organization that has a very cherished employee pool that stays with the organization for a while, the expectation of the entire organization innovating in an agile way is just not something that's doable. But what we do is we create that culture in a small set of teams, younger talent that are bringing the differentiated thinking, that are bringing in a lot more agile mindset.
No, let me get back to you but thanks for elaborating. I do have a couple of questions around the structure of your teams and roles, if you will. Sure. So on that note, guys, you guys are working for large organizations. Do you have one or all of the ones I'm going to mention? Do you have an innovation lab? Do you have knowledge centers? Do you have what we call a digital factory or a software factory? Do you have all of it? And if not, and if so, is there one that's working better and why? Innovation lab, knowledge centers, digital factory. Do you mind, Alan?
Sure. I was asked even last week about my specific R&D areas and strategy. And it's very simple. We integrate R&D and innovation in every single thing that we do, every single thing. And we don't have a dedicated R&D department. What we do is we break off people into groups, we R&D something small, and we spin it up. And we make sure that we're not separating out, that's a digital factory, that's an R&D group, because innovation must be ingrained in the very foundation of all of our people and all of our teams. So from this point of view, we don't split these things across. What we do is we make sure that every single day we recognize innovation and we recognize, more importantly, opportunities for innovation. And this is why I was saying earlier on that things take as long as they take. So Mrinal is very, very spot on when he says that we have to, be careful that we measure and we iterate and we have teams and everything else to isolate these things off and show wins. But as Steve said, this process isn't a start and stop. This is a continuous improvement. This is continuous capability maturity in action. And therefore, to be successful, I believe, in digital transformation, it has to be ingrained in every single thing that you do and shouldn't be isolated, I believe, and put on a pedestal, such as a digital factory, the garage, the this, the that, the other. This should be ingrained in your team as everybody moves forward.
Yeah. So before I let Steve respond to that, I do want to say, I agree. So in a perfect world, if you are one of the FANGs, Microsoft, Amazon, Apple, etc., it's probably fair to say everyone is digital. Okay, for the rest of us, I believe we do have to showcase a digital factory. We do have to showcase a team that are able to execute for it to get executive support, and for the rest of the associates to understand the value. I think so. So while I agree everyone should be thinking digital, which I was lucky to be at ING Direct where we did it, we wouldn't hire anyone unless they were like thinking digitally. But it is a little bit of a challenge, and I think I'm of the opinion that the innovation team should have bigger guns. There's a reason why the SWAT teams have bigger guns than the police force, right? It's because their tasks are different, right? So anyway, I'm going to let you go, Steve, and respond to the innovation lab knowledge center question, if you don't mind. I'd love to hear what you
say. I think Alan's absolutely right that innovation is best decentralized. If you think about, what Eric Ries talks about in the lean startup, he talks about that build, measure, learn loop, and that intimacy with the customer. The closer you are to the customer, i.e. the further you are away from the center, the more you are going to get that faster feedback from the customer that's going to enable you to iterate and improve, like Marunal said earlier. In terms of the digital factory, the digital garage, etc., we've seen this in our large enterprise customers. There's an area of central London called Shoreditch. It's very trendy. It's a sort of London Silicon Valley area. They call it the Silicon Roundabout. The organizations spending north of $100 million on spinning up some kind of digital capacity, that 3 years later they kind of shut down because they haven't been able to generate any return from investment from it. And in some cases they bring it back inside the organizations because maybe it is doing some good stuff, and then the sheer process of bringing it back inside the mothership kills it because it no longer has the freedom to innovate. It no longer has the passion and the processes and the mindset to innovate anymore. So I'm not a big fan of that model. I think if we take what Alan was talking about with the sort of the disseminated innovation model, you have to invest in the knowledge sharing though. I really like the inner source model for software development. Adopt the open source model, make all your code public inside your organization, have committers and maintainers and a governance platform, because otherwise you end up with these pockets of innovation and somebody over here might be have something really innovative that's super useful to somebody over here. Yeah. So I would be investing my money in the knowledge management and the dissemination of information, like using inner source as a model.
Tell you're a talker. I'm going to stop you.
So no worries.
Awesome. Good job. Well, listen, I told you I was 2% German, so according
control freak.
I don't know. I think that may be a stretch, but we have 8 minutes and 15 seconds left. So according to McKinsey, so if we agree that that's a somewhat reliable source, 70% of digital transformations fail, and out of those, 60% or so are due to culture. And I know we mentioned that before. Why do you think that is, and what are you and your organization doing to combat that, Bruno?
So I agree with Steve's hand gesture. I think a lot of management consulting strategy work is overrated. That's past thinking. I think we should, in the digital world, innovation and thought leadership comes from the people and not from the management consulting companies. So I think we have to look at things differently. What we're doing here in J&J and approaching this in a different way is, what we're saying is, let IT enable capabilities and bring them to the internal marketplace at J&J. And we want our business users to upskill and be digitally savvy And we're introducing the concept called citizen development, where we enable the capabilities, we publish those capabilities and make them available via platforms, frameworks, all that good stuff. And we want to have our business users have the digital acumen, because we're finding that a lot of millennial and newer talent we're hiring are very digitally savvy in the business, in supply chain, in finance, in HR. So why have IT become the bottleneck? Because IT has only so many resources.
Yeah.
Let's democratize digital transformation. And that's the way we're approaching this. We're in the early stages of this, but so far it's looking good.
Okay, great. Thank you, Ronald. Steve.
Yeah, I mean, I think Marino's idea of democratizing transformation is a great idea. Pushing it out to the edge. Culture is a blocker for the organizations that don't make the business case as to why the status quo is no longer acceptable. There's a model of behavioral change. You download it from our website called the TTM model. And the first step on that rung is making people understand why the status quo is no longer good enough. You've got to make the case that, we can't keep doing things the way we've been doing them. There's new entrants, new competitors are going to crush us. The world has changed. What our customers want have changed. How we need to go to market has changed. So step one in the change program is just getting people to agree that change is necessary, that, the status quo is no longer good enough. But what happens is so many organizations jump to telling them, we're going to do this digital transformation, and this is exactly how it's going to be done, and this is how we're going to organize everything, and this is all the resources that you have available, without making the case as to why change is necessary. So I would say that the reason culture is the blocker is because they missed that vital first step.
Yeah. No, that's great. Listen, is that a yellow cab on the shelf behind you? And if so, have you heard of Uber?
Absolutely. Another great disruptor.
Uber is trending. I'm just letting you know. All right, Alan, do you mind? Question was, the culture, large percentage transformation fails. Why do you think that is, and what are you doing about it?
Okay, first of all, like the other two panel members, a consultant of the likes that you've talked about, a consultancy company, you can never measure whether what they've said or not is true. You bring in a consultancy company because you don't know the answer, and then they come in and they ask a question that you don't know is the even question that you want. And I have talked to consultants who have said, where do we get our information? Just like this. Just drawing dots in the sky, right? So you can never trust them. Until you actually go out and you're at the coalface, you can't trust what people say. And this is why I completely agree with Steve, as he says, the closer that we get to the customer, the more successful our process is going to be. Okay? Now, culture can either, as many people have said in startups and everything else, culture will either make your company, your startup, your innovation, your digital transformation, it'll either make it incredibly successful or it will kill it dead before it even gets off the ground. We have seen people who come into organizations and their negative attitude just wipes out completely any gain that you have before it even gets off the ground. Okay? So it is incredibly important to ensure that you have somebody who can manage people, that you have leaders who aren't full of themselves, but are full of the organization, and who really desire and want the need not to change for the sake of change, but for the betterment of the organization, and in turn, the betterment of the people. And two quick examples of this are, number one, Heathrow Airport, and I'll put in a link there that we can share. Heathrow Airport, we had a chap who saw a big problem, and he was empowered to be able to use Power Apps to go and change it completely from the ground up, with massive impact on the company. Yeah. Second, a little tiny small one, my own far better half, who works in social services with the public, and she had a lot of people coming in who English wasn't their first language. And rather than sort of saying, "Oh, nothing we can do about it," she came home to me and she said, "Isn't there an app that I can use that I can just hold up at the counter and it'll do like this instant translation and I can do better customer service?" Guess what? That's being close to your customer. That's having the appropriate culture, and it's enabling your people to actually transform on the ground. And that, I believe, is the key to having the right culture.
Yeah, no, totally. Listen, culture is probably my number one. We consult for a living on transformation. So I'm always amazed at the lack of investment in the cultural aspect, knowing that it's the biggest reason for failure. Like, do you want 100 million or 130 to rebuild your bank? Maybe with a different CEO, Steve, they would go, yeah, let's do it. Let's modernize the technology stack. But do you want to spend 100 million on culture? Oh, no. But here's a $10,000 budget. So with that, how about 30 seconds each on who should lead your transformation and why? 30 seconds. Bruno.
I think it's a combination of business and IT. So there has to be a very strong connection between the two. That's the only way digital transformation is going to complete. Okay, great. Alan?
It actually should be led by HR because they understand people.
You know what? That's a first one. I'm amazed by that. Yes. That's actually a new one. I love it. Steve?
It has to be led by the CEO. If it's not led by the CEO, it's almost doomed to failure. It's got to be the number one thing on that organization's agenda, and it's what the CEO has to be talking to the board about every single month. And if it's not the CEO, forget about it. You're going to fail.
Yeah. How's that for timing, guys? I'm just saying. That was 30 minutes flat.
Go the Vikings!
And I'm just going to say, I agree also with the CEO, because when we go in, if the CEO does not show up for the first kickoff meeting, we know they're going to fall into that 70% category. So with that, let's move to Q&A. Okay, and I think Simon has some questions before we close. So we have a few minutes of Q&A. Is there any right approach that one must follow for digital transformation? From Niharika. Do you guys want to just jump in? If not, I'll go Bruno.
Sure. I don't think there's a right. I don't think there's a playbook, to be honest with you. You have to look at your organization, just like the other panelists have said. What works within your organization is the playbook you follow. So if somebody comes back, and this is where we go back to the McKinsey conversation, right? If a consulting company comes in and says $1 million and I'll give you a playbook, throw that concept out, look at your organization, and let your organization make sure that you can co-develop that journey and that transformation.
Yeah, great. I think we'll have to let all of you address the questions, if you don't mind. Or unless Stephen...
I'll jump in on this one. I mean, I think if there's one thing you can take away from, I think everybody said on this panel for Niharika is focus on the people is the first thing. There is no transformation without a focus on the people and a focus on the team and the efficiency of the team. And don't try and scale the solution. Don't try and implement scaled agile framework or some big transformation framework. Decompose the problem so you empower each individual and each team to innovate, rather than trying to come up with some big innovation transformation framework. You'll be surprised if you put the power in the hands of the people, what will actually happen.
Okay, awesome. Alan, you want to chime in?
Yeah, I think from my perspective, again, throw out the consultants. You don't need them. However, you do need one type. You don't need the consultant to tell you what to do, but you do need a consultant to tell you how to do it. Mm-hmm. You need someone to tell you what tools are available, and you need someone to help stand there like a guide, like a mountain guide or like a Sherpa, to say, okay, maybe nudge in this direction. Have a look at that. What do you think? Do we have buy-in from this, as Steve said, from the top on down? Do we have the HR making sure that the culture is ingrained into it, right? So the right approach, as we've said, is the one that works for your organization, but you must ensure that you are guided by the right principles and that you use the most cutting edge available tools.
Yeah.
Because if you don't have those, you are guaranteed to fail. You must have a guide. Yeah. That's my bottom line.
I agree. That's how you get to Mount Everest, right?
Mm-hmm.
Great. Next question, please, Stephen. Or Simon, sorry, I keep saying Stephen. Do you feel like your workforce is yawning for innovation? Alan, why don't you just continue since you were on a roll?
Is my workforce yearning for innovation? No, they're probably yearning for a vaccine so they can go and meet up again. I don't think my workforce is yearning for innovation. In my particular case, my workforce is always at the cutting edge of what we do. And in actual fact, sometimes one of the problem is that we have too much innovation and we actually have to pull back and we've got to say, no, we're going to park that. It's an edge case. It's a great idea, but we're not going to pursue that right now. Let's just stay with our low-hanging fruit. Let's just do what we do and what we do well. Let's continue that. So I don't think my workforce is yearning for innovation. They probably want me to slow down. I don't think most workforces are yearning for innovation. I think what they're yearning for is they're yearning for a more positive workplace whereby their contributions can be valued. And I think that if we, going back to the core again, if we empower them to be able to be disruptive and to be able to implement change and to know that their comments and their hopes, wishes, and dreams for change are appreciated and taken on board, well, then you have a win.
I agree. I agree. Stephen, do you want to chime in on that? Thanks, Pradeep, for the question. Do you feel like your workforce is yearning for innovation?
I think I'm sort of in the same bucket as Alan, is that my workforce is, we're living on the edge of DevOps and DevOps-enabled cloud migration and cloud adoption. So we have the opposite problem. We absolutely have to dial it back and we have to say, what's our focus going to be? We've got to sort of stay focused because it's very hard as a small company. You've got to keep the focus. So there is this tension between wanting to do new things and maintaining focus that will, hopefully then lead to breaking out into scale and having a really successful organization.
Okay, great. We have a ton of questions, so I'm going to let Bruno handle the next one. Stephen, do you want to tee it up? If not, I can. Will adopting digital-centric culture transformation affect attrition?
Great question. In fact, I think we should be ready for a level of attrition because that's part of the DNA of talent in the industry anyway. The key for us as leaders is to ensure that we create the opportunities for experimentation, for taking ideas to market, and having them built out for the business. I think if we do that, then we will be able to manage the level of attrition. But you cannot go into a conversation like this to say we'll have zero attrition. It's acceptable attrition that we should be targeting for.
Yeah. No, that's true. Alan.
Okay, I always hate this word. I do not support attrition for the sake of attrition and for the sake of the bottom line. I'll put my socialist hat on, and I will say that I do a lot of work in machine learning. I hate to say AI. Hey, what's the difference between AI and machine learning? Machine learning is written in Python. AI is written in PowerPoint. Hey, now, so here's the thing, right? I don't like talking about replacing the human. I'd like to talk about augmenting the human. So when we talk about attrition, I would like to see us as an organization, as our culture first, with our people, our family first, even if it's on a 165-year-old organization, to be able to say, what can we do to make sure that we give our people a better job, that we use their skills in a better way, and they're not just doing things over and over and over and over again. We use our technology to enhance the human and to augment the human and to free them up to do more intelligent things. So I always fight very, very hard against attrition And I always say, forget attrition. How can we move our teams and our valued people? Because it costs a hell of a lot more to get somebody new than to retrain them. And there's only so much racing towards the bottom that you can do. So what can we do in digital transformation to free up our people, augment our humans, and use them to a better effect?
Yeah, no, great. Listen, I just want to let you know, officially, I'm right on time. But we have so many questions, so I'm going to pop one more. All right? So, but thanks, Ellen, for ruining my presentation later, where I'm going to do complete slideware on AI. So I appreciate it. But next question, how do you motivate, inspire your teams to go learn new things they don't want to learn? Steve, 30 seconds.
Get them to want to learn it is the obvious answer to that question.
Like, what do you use, Knives, or how do you do it?
So we do a few things. So first of all, we have communities of practice inside the organization where the different job roles get together and they learn from each other. And I think there is a natural sort of competitiveness and a natural tension inside organizations. If people want to build their reputation, people like being seen as an expert. So I think if you start to see this culture growing where your contributions, your sharing is seen as a very positive thing, then people are going to want to deepen their expertise and then share that expertise. Yeah. We've recently sort of done a realignment to some of our job roles and the levels within those job roles. And, because, we're, say, for example, we're a Microsoft partner, we have certain certifications that we must maintain. We've aligned certain certifications to certain job roles. And that's just a commercial decision, which is to say, hey, if you want to go from a senior engineer to a lead engineer, for example, we expect you to have, 2 of these expert certifications from a range of choices. So sometimes we're building it into people's job descriptions.
Yeah, no, that's great. Guys, we have to wrap it up. I told you I was 2% German, so it's time. So, but I do want to thank all of you, Alan, Steve, and Runal, for sharing your knowledge and experience with our audience and myself. You always think you know a lot, but then I do like to comment on HR running things. So if you guys found this interesting, I suggest you listen to the Accelerate Innovation session in a couple hours, where that's basically how to showcase digital transformation by accelerating your innovation efforts. It may be presented as slideware, but it's really actual implementation. It's a client of ours, and I'm not doing it because it's a client. It's because they've gone from complete analog to Industry 4.0 in a short period of time. So with that, thank you to the panel.